The tarmac shimmered under the morning sun. Flight 274 to New York was boarding, the engines humming, the air buzzing with impatience. Passengers pressed against the gate window, watching a tall black man in a neon vest load luggage into the plane's cargo hold. He worked fast, quiet, focused. A group nearby whispered. "Guy's fast," one said. "Yeah," another chuckled. "Wish they'd move like that inside the terminal." None of them knew his name. None of them knew he wasn't a baggage handler at all. Minutes later, the same man walked up the boarding ramp, still wearing the reflective vest. The flight attendants barely glanced at him. He moved calmly, confidently, toward the front of the plane. A passenger frowned. "Hey, where's that guy going?" He kept walking. Past the first row. Past the business seats. Straight toward the cockpit door. A murmur spread. Someone said, "Is he supposed to be there?" Another laughed nervously. Then came the sound, the click of the cockpit door. He opened it, stepped inside, and shut it behind him. The cabin went silent. A woman gasped. A flight attendant froze. Someone whispered, "What's happening?" And within 60 seconds, that same baggage handler would change the entire flight and prove just how wrong everyone had been about him. The passengers panicked quietly, like people do when fear starts small but grows fast. "Is he hijacking the plane?" someone whispered. "He had a vest, he works here," another said. "Then why didn't he board like everyone else?" The murmurs turned into nervous chatter. The flight attendants huddled near the front, whispering into their radios. But inside the cockpit, Captain Andre Miles was strapping in, headset on, eyes scanning the instrument panel. He wasn't an intruder. He was the pilot. Andre had flown for 20 years, commercial, military, rescue. But no matter how many hours he logged, no matter how many awards hung in his office, there was one thing he couldn't shake: the looks. Every airport. Every flight. Every time. Someone always assumed he worked on the ground, not in the air. That morning, when he walked past the gate in his vest, checking the load distribution himself, a passenger had mistaken him for ground crew. When he didn't respond, the man smirked and muttered, "Figures." Andre didn't bother correcting him. He'd learned long ago, sometimes silence speaks louder. He finished checking the cargo bay, handed off the paperwork, then walked up the ramp, just as boarding began. And the looks followed him again. The whispers. The raised eyebrows. Even a flight attendant who said, "Sir, passengers aren't allowed this way," until he pointed calmly at the name stitched on his badge. "Captain A. Miles?" She blinked, embarrassed. "Oh. I didn't realize." "Few people do," he said quietly. Back in the cabin, the confusion was spreading. A middle-aged man in first class said loudly, "If that guy's really flying this thing, I'm getting off." The attendant tried to hush him, but he stood up anyway. "I paid good money for this flight, and I want someone qualified up there." A young woman nearby frowned. "You didn't even see what happened. Maybe he is the pilot." He scoffed. "Please. You saw him loading bags. Maybe because he cares about his passengers." She shot back. Her tone silenced him for a moment, but the tension lingered like static in the air. Inside the cockpit, Andre heard the commotion through his headset. He sighed, knowing exactly what it was. He'd faced it before, the disbelief, the doubt. The first time had been during training. The examiner had looked at him, then at the roster, and said, "You're sure you're in the right room?" The memory still stung. He'd spent his career proving himself, not because of his skill, but despite people's assumptions. And now, even as captain of a major airline, he still had to prove it, one passenger at a time. The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be departing shortly once final checks are complete." The voice was steady, calm, professional, the kind that makes people trust planes to stay in the sky. The man in first class froze mid-sentence. "That's him?" he muttered. The young woman nodded slowly. "Told you." But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because 10 minutes after takeoff, the flight would face a crisis, and everyone on board would realize that the baggage handler they'd dismissed was the only reason they made it home alive. The first 30 minutes were smooth. Clouds drifted past like lazy ghosts. Passengers relaxed. Drinks were served. Then turbulence hit, sharp, sudden. A jolt rocked the cabin. Cups toppled. Someone screamed. The seatbelt sign blinked on. "This doesn't feel normal," the young woman muttered. It wasn't. In the cockpit, alarms were flashing. Hydraulic pressure was dropping fast. One of the control systems had failed. Andre's co-pilot looked pale. "We've lost pressure on the left side." Andre's voice was calm. "We're rerouting to manual. Keep altitude steady." He gripped the control yoke, knuckles tight. Sweat dotted his forehead. "Not today," he whispered. "Not this flight." In the cabin, fear spread. The same man who had doubted him earlier pressed the attendant for answers. "What's going on up there? Who's flying this?" She looked him straight in the eye. "Captain Miles. The same man you didn't trust an hour ago." The man swallowed hard. "Then I hope he's as good as he looks confident." She smiled faintly. "Better." Andre and his co-pilot worked in near silence, rerouting systems, overriding controls manually. Years of training, years of being doubted, had made him razor-sharp in crisis. "Mayday, mayday," the co-pilot radioed. "Flight 274 experiencing hydraulic failure, requesting immediate return." Air traffic control responded. "Copy that, 274. You're clear to turn back." Andre nodded, pulling the yoke gently. "Easy does it." The plane tilted. Passengers gasped. In the cabin, people prayed quietly. Then, after 20 tense minutes, the wheels touched down, rough, but safe. Applause erupted. Cheers. Tears. Relief. When the plane stopped, the captain's voice came over the speaker again. "This is your captain. We've landed safely. Thank you for your patience." Then a pause. "And for those wondering, yes, I was the one loading the bags earlier. When you care about your passengers, you make sure everything's done right, even if it means getting your hands dirty." The cabin went silent again, but not from fear. From respect. The same man in first class who doubted him now looked down at his hands, ashamed. The young woman across the aisle caught Andre's eye as he stepped out of the cockpit. She clapped first. One by one, everyone joined in. Thunderous applause filled the plane. And for once, Andre didn't walk past the whispers, he walked through them. Head high. Because sometimes, the best way to challenge prejudice isn't with words. It's with excellence that can't be ignored. When the story hit the news, the headline didn't read, "Hydraulic failure forces emergency landing." It read, "Pilot saves 176 lives, after passengers mistook him for a baggage handler." The video of passengers clapping went viral. Interviews followed. Debates started. Andre never blamed anyone publicly. He just said, "Respect doesn't come from the uniform, it comes from the heart behind it." And that became the lesson millions shared online. Speech balloons. So what would you have done if you saw him loading bags? Would you have judged him, or just thanked him for caring enough to do more than required? Tell me in the comments below, your words matter. If stories about courage, humility, and truth inspire you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that prove one thing. Greatness doesn't need validation. It just needs a moment to be seen. Because sometimes, the man you underestimate is the one holding your life steady in the sky.